Good afternoon. It is 3 o'clock. I want to welcome everybody today. We have a pretty good crowd here, maybe a little bit more than the Veterans Day event we had earlier today. It was a great opportunity to get together and honor and thank the veterans here at Rolling Green Village and those family members that have sacrificed so much. So I wanted you to know we had a great event earlier today, and I had an opportunity to visit with a couple folks over lunch, which was great. So let's go ahead and get started. We do have a couple of folks that are going to visit with you all today. Shannon went home. She wasn't feeling 100%, so Anna Grace is going to step in for her. But Amy's going to speak, Anna Grace is going to speak, and then also I've invited Bruce to spend some time with you all to talk through some of the things that they're working on behind the scenes, and then I'll spend some time with you as well. So wanted to request that David come up and open us up with prayer this afternoon. So please, David.
All right, let's go to the Lord in prayer. Dear God, creator of heaven and earth, hear us as we pray. In the words of the psalmist, this is the day the Lord has made, let us rejoice and be glad in it. So grateful we are for this day, as it represents for us all the gift of yet another day of life and all the opportunities that come with it. May we be good stewards of our lives today, living as though it were our last, living such that looking back on this day there would be no cause for regrets, and living with a sense of adventure and celebration and possibilities. Grateful we are for this day as it provides us now with a second opportunity for the gathering of this community. We're thrilled with the service this morning during which we honored our veterans for their faithful service to our nation. We're blessed to have a number of our residents, both men and women, who offered a portion of their lives to help ensure that we maintain the rights and freedoms built into the fabric of our nation and preserved from threats, both foreign and domestic. May we be good stewards of this democratic society for which our veterans sacrificed through service to the Republic. Encourage us to be active and intentional members of the body politic, engaging in healthy and civil exchanges of ideas and principles. Equip us to be thoughtful and discerning. We need that, and especially so in this next year, in order to experience what Jesus summed up so well when he said that the truth will set you free. Help us to sift carefully all the rhetoric, the bluster, the empty promises, and yes, even the nonsense, which comprises so much of political discourse in these days, with the end result being that we discover the truth. Grateful we are for this day because you've set us in this lovely environment, surrounded by the beauty of nature. Especially in recent days, we've enjoyed the pleasant weather, expecting that this very day will set another record for the warmest November 9th in history. But the true loveliness of the place in which we live is not found in nature or in the architecture, but in the faces and lives of those among whom we live. So if we look around us, even in this room now, we would see neighbors, some of whom have become friends, others of whom will become friends in the days ahead, and some of whom have impacted our lives already through their kindness and graciousness. How good it is to live in a place of such relative harmony. So may we be good stewards of our community, doing all we can to preserve and further enhance a spirit of collegiality and mutual respect and genuine regard for one another. These are the things that are needed for sweet communion. So enable us to embrace and celebrate our differences in the spirit of mutual affection, and challenge us to challenge one another to be our best selves at all times and in all ways. And grateful we are for this very day as it causes us to look back and then reflect on the present and the future. This very day is the 85th anniversary of Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass when the Nazis unleashed their full fury against the Jewish communities in Germany, shattering windows and looting homes, burning synagogues, brutalizing and imprisoning Jewish residents who had been their neighbors. Sadly, the complacency and even the complicity of the church allowed this to go on without challenge, as so many leaders of faith communities had been duped by the rantings of a power-hungry demagogue who was masterful in working the crowds along themes of national exceptionalism and the demonization of enemies, giving them not the truth, but what they wanted to hear. So Lord, in light of world events today, we see an alarming rise in anti-Semitism and even Islamophobia, as there are modern day voices seeking to create enemies of whole peoples and their own self-serving ploys to attain power. Give us the discernment to see through the deceptions, but on a simpler and deeper level, and for the sake of who we want to be, guard us against hate, and lead us to stay true to your path to love others, to see everyone as one of your creations. Help us then to be good stewards of the gospel of love, but to do so in both word and deed. And in a divided and angry world, may Rolling Green continue to be a shining example of what true community looks like. So in our time together today, we ask your blessings on Ryan and others who may share with us. Help us to hear what we need to hear, to absorb information that will be helpful, and to be attentive to ways in which we can contribute to the betterment of our community and to grow in appreciation for one another, both fellow residents and staff. This is indeed the day the Lord has made, and we of Rolling Green Village are glad. And this we pray in our Lord's name. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, David. Wanted to see if we can invite, I think, Anna Grace, you want to, or let's see, Amy, would you mind going next, and then we'll switch back over to Anna Grace, so not have you go back and forth.
Good afternoon. So I would like to introduce our newest family member. Those of you that know Katie Cobble, our wellness coordinator, this is her new baby, and her name is Macy Eileen Martin. Katie still hasn't changed her name since she got married, that's why she's Cobble. Macy was born on Halloween at 11:29 a.m. and Macy weighed 8 pounds and 10 ounces. So mother and baby are doing well. I know it's an adjustment. I asked her how it was going, and she said it was pretty rough. Her mother-in-law had come over to spend the night so they could get some sleep. But everyone's doing well. As far as exercise classes go, I think we're going to talk about the wellness classes. Everything seems to be going okay, besides a few little snags, like one day I forgot to come down and turn the video on Thursday morning, but we've got that taken care of now. I've got my alarm set, so I'll be down there. I hooked up a Roku to the TV, so that way we could live stream, or we could stream her exercise class directly on there instead of us having to hook up the computer, so that worked perfect. And I'm teaching a couple residents how to turn it on just in case. So I'm still looking for someone to come into the gym just to help with the machines and to answer any questions. I haven't found anyone yet. I know last time we talked about it, I had reached out to a couple of places, so I'll continue to look for that. But if anybody has any questions, feel free to call us. We can schedule an appointment just to go down there, and if anybody really needs help, I do know how to use the machines. So you know, if you do need some extra help, just let me know. I can't do one-on-one training, but I can show you how to use the machine. So I really would like to encourage some of you to attend it's called the Forever Fit Fusion class, that's on Mondays and Wednesdays at 3 o'clock. It's in the Palmetto conference room. It's a really good class, and the ones who have taken it, I think they've really enjoyed it. It's a full body workout. You do cardio, upper and lower body strength training. You do core training, and also balance. So she uses music. She has some weights. She has the weighted balls. She also has it's like those bands that have the handles on them. So it's the people who are going really enjoy it. Yes, Molly?
You can stay in the seat if you need to stay in your chair.
Right, and some of it's standing, but if you can't stand to do it, you can stay in your seat to do it. Okay, so there are modifications. Does anybody have any questions or anything we need to discuss about the exercise? All right, thank you.
She's amazing.
Good afternoon. doing a little bit different of what we had planned with Shannon being out. So I'll start with her piece. So I wanted to give a brief overview of the COVID that we currently have in really all levels of care at the moment. So within independent living, we do have a few cases out, and we just want to remind people, if you have those symptoms, to call the clinic. We can test you. Some of the people that we've seen with symptoms are those that appear with allergy symptoms, and it is the time of the year where the weather's changing. It can be allergies or it could be COVID. So we do encourage you, if you don't feel well, to come up and test, just so that way we're protecting our neighbors and friends from also being exposed. So I just wanted to remind people of that. So if you'll call the clinic, Jane or Marlene or Shannon will be able to help you with that. In regards to COVID, we had a vaccine clinic this week on Tuesday, and Shannon said that it went very well. We do have extra vaccines, so if there's anybody that missed out on that opportunity and wants to get a booster shot, we have additional vaccines. So just reach out to Shannon and we can schedule that. So that's within independent living. Just so everyone's aware, if you're over and visiting in healthcare or rehab, we currently have positive cases in those areas as well. We have 6 residents that are positive within healthcare, and we have no cases at the moment in short-term rehab. So we're hoping that it will continue that way. We are following CDC recommendations and wearing masks in those areas. We are not allowed to any longer mandate residents or visitors to wear a mask. So if you are visiting in those areas, it's your choice as to if you want to wear a mask or not. We encourage you strongly to do so. So just be aware of that. There are postings around the community about the COVID guidelines going on in those specific areas. But we're monitoring those residents. Families are aware of what's going on. So just want to make independent living also aware if you're in those areas. So that's a little bit about COVID. It is one thing that, as we've said, it will continue, kind of like the flu. We'll go through ebbs and flows of that. There will be more of a COVID season, like a flu season, as time goes on. So it's something we kind of expected. So we just encourage you to follow the proper precautions that you feel comfortable with. So masking, if you want to get a vaccine, washing your hands are a big piece of that. So just making sure that you're protecting yourself in the best way possible. So that's a little bit about COVID. So that's what Shannon was primarily going to cover. I want to take a moment to introduce 2 new employees that we have within the licensed areas. So recently we hired an admission coordinator. Sarah Thomas Johnson was our previous admissions coordinator. She has been promoted to a outreach coordinator position. So her position will look primarily to visiting the hospitals, visiting residents in the hospitals, and doing bedside sales before they may come into long-term or short-term rehab. And then also building those partnerships that we currently have within the community. So with her promoting to that position, we have hired an outside admission coordinator, Lori McPeak. So I'm gonna let Lori over there in the corner. So Lori came from us through she has a lot of admission coordinator experience. Her biggest area I would say that she was in for the longest amount of time was Brushy Creek post-acute. So she's used to the post-acute setting. She's learned very quickly that RGV does something in a special way. So she's been here for about 2 weeks and it's going very well. She's absorbing, not boots on the ground just yet, taking our time to make sure she feels comfortable in taking that position before we move Sarah over into the outreach position. And then our second person is Danny Presley. Danny's over in the corner too. So Danny has been with us previously as a floor nurse. She is now our rehab unit manager. So she took Allie's position, if anybody remembers Allie. Allie was actually here earlier visiting, so I was able to stop in and check in with her for a little bit. But Danny's been here for 4 weeks?
4 weeks. So she's doing great, absorbing all rehab has to offer, and has taken that very well. So we welcome them. They've really enjoyed RGV thus far, and we look forward to continuing to help them grow and be a part of Rolling Green. So any questions regarding those two? No? Okay. So that's new people. And then I want to talk a little bit about occupancy. So I feel like it's important for independent living residents to kind of know where we're at with suites or units or beds that are available within the licensed areas. So as of today, in rehab, we currently have 18 out of 22 beds filled. So we have 4 empty beds. In healthcare, we have 46 out of 48 beds filled. So we are busy. We have 64 residents that we're taking care of at the moment, and we feel it, but it's definitely a positive moment to be able to know that you're making a difference in more people's lives. So that's extremely important for us. It's been a game changer with having to balance that, but we're doing a good job of doing that. Within Cedars Assisted Living, we have 26 out of 28 suites filled. We have a move-in next week, and then also external move-in the following week. So we will be full if those two play out. And we're currently 13 out of 22 beds filled in Evergreen Place. So we're busy, and it's great. It's great to feel. So our team is doing a good job of being able to meet those needs for the residents. So I ask that if you have anything upcoming, most of you are very capable and do well with doing this, but if you have a surgery upcoming, if you go out to the hospital or your spouse goes out to the hospital, make sure Shannon is aware of that, so we can kind of keep track of what's going on. And if you need a rehab stay, if you might need a private pay stay, we're aware of that, and Shannon's able to be that additional support. Any questions regarding those things? No? Yes, ma'am?
I'm fairly new. I don't know the difference between Cedars and Evergreen.
So Cedars Assisted Living is your basic assisted living. So it's primarily independent living with additional assistance. So they still get med management, they get 3 meals a day, but they have their own suite. They come and go as they please, but you have 2 med techs there to kind of primarily provide additional assistance if you need that. In Evergreen Place, that's our memory care area, our memory care neighborhood. It is a secure unit with an indoor courtyard. So we're able to also provide that additional assistance that's not necessarily a skilled nursing need yet, but being a secure and locked area. Does that make sense? Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Backing up a little bit, and you talked about COVID, I believe you said that you could test for COVID here. I called somebody in healthcare today, and if I understood correctly, they said, "Oh, you have to go to a pharmacy or someplace to buy a test." Yeah.
So
don't do it here.
We test in independent living, so we can hand out that test if we need to. Healthcare, which are licensed nurses within the licensed areas, so anything from healthcare, short-term rehab, they wouldn't administer that test. It would be something the clinic can do.
This is, but independent living, you can.
We will be able to get you a test. Yes, sir. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Are we possibly going to get the RSV?
So as of RSV, that is a newer vaccine. We have not decided to purchase it in bulk and administer. It is something that some insurances are covering and some are not. They've Medicare set it up to where Part B pays for that rather than Part D. They're talking about doing that, so it'll be something that could possibly be next year, but Part D right now is really paying for it. So not everyone carries Part D. Most people carry Part A and Part B, but Part D is primarily covering that. I would suggest you look with your insurance company and then possibly get it on the outside of the community. You're welcome. Yes, sir.
Grace, have you been able to staff up for the increase in occupancy?
Yes, sir. So we're still carrying a high resident hours per patient day. So we are mandated through CMS to report that once a quarter. So we're actually graded on that per se. So it's part of our 5-star rating. So within our short-term area, within our long-term area, we still staff above the regulation that's required. So most communities carry a lower staffing ratio. Like we were talking earlier, in NHC, which is right down the road, carries, their nurses can sometimes have up to 44 residents at one time. We do not staff that low, we staff much higher than that. So we carry 2 nurses even at night with 48 residents, so they're still nowhere near where NHC would be per se. So we follow the South Carolina regulation plus a higher hours per patient day. So yeah, any other questions?
She's pretty sharp.
Thank you, Anna Grace.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So I want to give a kudos to Anna Grace and the team within the licensed areas. It's been quite a while since we've seen our census, pick back up. It's been a year of recovery, but Bruce, to your question, we've hired quite a few people since the beginning of the year. We continue to keep that focus. We've had great success with reducing the number of temporary staff that we're using over there. One of the struggles we are having is on third shift. The overnight shift has definitely been harder for us to find folks. So that's an area of continued focus for us. So, but they're really doing a great job. We have not seen us get to these numbers for quite some time. When it comes to occupancy, and it's getting into a new routine, as she mentioned, the more people that we can serve, we feel that are better because they're in our care. So it's been great to see those numbers stay up consistently for basically the 3rd month in a row. August, September, October have been our busiest months so far this year. I really think that'll continue as we pivot into 2024. So I want to see if we can switch gears and invite Bruce to come up and speak, just talk about the good things that they're doing. I think you're all aware we continue to set records with numbers of meals served. So I wanted him to visit with you all, give you an update, and also let you know what are some other things that they're doing behind the scenes that you may not be aware of. Sorry, I'll stop touching this, and I'll let him answer a few questions for you all before I come back up. So thanks, Bruce.
Thanks. How are y'all doing today? Okay, nice. Why we don't touch this. All right. I've got a variety of things I wanted to talk about. The first thing I did want to talk about is just we're busy. I think you all know that we are busy. A lot of us are numbers people, so I thought I'd throw some numbers at you. Back in July, some of you have heard this, but we served for the first time ever throughout both kitchens, throughout the entire community, we served over 20,000 meals. Then the next month, August, we served over 21,000 meals. Last month we served over 23,000 meals. And I was actually speaking with Karen, my dining room manager, we're going to discuss in a minute, but a few years back we would serve anywhere from 16 to 17,000 meals a month. So we're busy, and that's great. We're able to serve everyone, and I think we're doing very well with it, but being this busy does bring some inherent challenges that over time, as I discussed, we'll talk about it. But also just in our new dining room, again, for those that have been here a while, you're sitting in the old dining room. This isn't quite as large as the other dining room, if you haven't noticed, but this is really, this is about the size of it. There's some other, it was pushed back a little further, but this is about it. And we could seat around 80 or 90 residents, family, and friends at any given time in there. This new dining room seats around 225, so it is much larger, and that comes with some challenges. But just as far as numbers go, we would serve anywhere in this old dining room around 4,500 meals per month. We're about this month we'll probably go over 10,000 meals in this other dining room. So again, it's just we're busy. And again, this is a good thing. What does this tell me? Hey, there's more of y'all that live here, but clearly y'all are bringing a lot more of your family and friends. So it just means a lot of good things. It means you feel good about what we're doing. You're proud of what we're doing. You're proud to bring your family and friends, and I think that's a really neat thing for y'all. On that similar thread, it wasn't on the agenda, but as far as Thanksgiving reservations, one thing we're getting some really, really large reservations, like 15, 17, 18, 25, and there's a point, that's just too much. There's only so much capacity, and it gets to a point where it's just asking too much. It was suggested we limit it to 10 per family. I think we've suggested 15 we can deal with, but understand that's still a lot of people. I'm not expecting all of y'all that come out on Thanksgiving Day for the buffet to bring 14 of your family and friends, but some of you will. If every one of you did, it'd be another busy day. So just FYI. Next thing I want to do is just talk about staffing for a minute. As most of all of you know, that we do have a new dining room manager. She's been here for actually right at 2 months, Karen Clisham. And if you could please stand up, and she's prepared a 15-minute speech for everyone that I just did. I always say that just to look for reactions. Okay, it worked. I think she's doing a great job. I think the fact that she has Claudia and Joey, who have been here for a while, that are working with her, helping her as she continues to learn, and I think she's seeing there's plenty to learn. We're busy and there's a lot of stuff to go with it, but she's doing very well with it, so I think that's great. On a different note, Pat Thompson, who's been here for a while, has chosen to resign just due to family personal issues, and she and I have spoken about it a variety of times, but last Friday was her last day. I respect her decision. It's a personal thing. And I'm the one who hired her, and I really, really enjoyed having her here. I always compared her to Rose over there in the dining room. The way she ruled it. So it's a compliment to Rose, it's a compliment to Pam. So again, I wish her the best, and she also knows that the door's also always open. So FYI on that. As we've talked about, we're busy. We've had a lot of residents talk about online reservations. We are getting closer to that, and we have 2 software systems that will have to be merged, but we're actually very close to that actually happening. And understand, as we do it, there's going to be a learning curve. We're not going to roll it out to everyone. We're going to figure out how to see how it works, and as we get better with it, then we'll expand it more. But even with that, some of y'all will love using it. Some of you will absolutely refuse to use it. You're going to use the phone no matter what. And some of you are going to come to our face and tell us to our face, I want this reservation right now. And some of you will, of course, not make reservations because you refuse to. And all that will continue. So now, but again, we actually, I don't really want to get into any more of the details, but it'll be involved with our full count POS system where we ring things up in our touchdown system that Amy has dealt with. So the 2 will come together. Actually, the contract's been signed, so now pretty soon the learning curve part will start. So more details to come. And don't ask me questions about that because as Amy's shaking her head, I can't answer that. But we'll eventually understand it better. Another thing, and this is just something that we've been talking about internally within my department and with Ryan and some other folks, and it'll come up in our food and beverage committee meeting next week. We take reservations because we have to be able to control how many people come into a dining room that's very large. The reality of it is, if anyone has ever worked in my industry, if you bring in a bunch of people at one time, you will overwhelm the service staff, and then you will overwhelm the kitchen staff, and then they'll be stressed out and unhappy, you'll be stressed out and unhappy, and everyone's just unhappy. So that is just the reality of things. The other reality is, as we've just discussed, we're as busy as we have ever been, and we're going to get busier. Even without this expansion that may or may not happen, we're just gonna get busier anyway because more of y'all are coming in, we're serving more residents from the cottages and the patio homes than we ever had. And we're serving about 70 of those a day, but there's 290 patio homes and 23 cottages, so there's still more room to grow. So with that, you have to understand that we are going to continue to get busier. How can we do this, understanding that there needs to be some form of reservations for our cook to order? A concept, an idea that's been thrown out there by me is continue that, but also on the busier evening shifts, which would be Monday through Friday and Sunday lunch, turn the Hummingbird into a buffet so we can run the two simultaneously, which I could then serve a lot more meals. And again, no reservation for that. So that's something we're talking about. To be honest with you, I don't know how we can get busier without having another option. And that's about the best option that my 35 plus years of experience in this has come up with. I'm gonna go visit some other communities next week, and I'm gonna see how they do it. There's a good chance we're somewhat busier than them. There's a good chance that's not going to help, but it'll still give me ideas and things to think about. So again, we're in the discussion stages, and if we come to terms that we might want to go this route, staffing will need to be looked at, and certain equipment may need to be either added or some things might need to be replaced in order to do this. Because the buffet has to operate completely separate from the line that's cooking the cooked order. It just won't work otherwise. Okay, so again, just throwing that out there, something for us to all think about, and then we can talk about it next week. Okay, let's see. Next, Monday of next week, the winter menu starts. As most of us know, they run for 13 weeks. So this is we're now ending it. And this week, as we all know, Friday would be the prime rib evening. We tend to do well on that. So we've got 15 loins that came in. That's a lot, just FYI. They each weigh around 15 to 20 pounds. So I need guys that can do the numbers real quickly. Go ahead and throw it out. But it's a lot of prime rib, and we're expecting many to come out. Another thing, a couple other things that all get tied together. It's just our cost of goods, the supply chain, and dealing with the reality of how this impacts our costs that, of course, y'all pay for. The supply chain. Yeah, we've had struggles with milk. You think, is it a cow thing or is it a packaging thing? I'm gonna go out on a limb and say the cows are just fine. I think it's the packaging thing. But we've had weeks where we couldn't get half pints, whether it was skim milk, whole milk, 2%. Each week was different, but each week it was one or the other. This week they're all here. But next week's a whole new week, so I can't guarantee anything, okay? We bought gallon jugs, and again, it'd be easier just to get the products that we order, but the supply chain is still somewhat disrupted. And anyone that watches the news, the the Panama Canal, they're having a hard time getting the ships through. I actually read today someone was like trying to bribe someone $4 million to get their ship through there. But it's just getting supplies around the country, around the world is still very difficult. And we're going to continue to feel that. Is it as bad as it was a year ago, 2 years ago? No, but every order from Cisco, twice a week, we still have issues that we just can't get products, or they substitute with things that just don't necessarily work the way we need them to work. So I can promise you that will continue. But we're hopeful that it'll continue to get better. Another thing, fillets, bulk fillet orders. This is a real touchy subject. Let me just throw some numbers at you. We pay around $20 a pound for the whole tenderloins. We actually get the whole tenderloins, 6 to 8 pounds. We trim them, we remove the chain, which means nothing to most of you. We cut off the ears of it, so you're getting barrel cuts, center cuts. It's the best of the best fillet that you can get. But we can still use some of that stuff for the sandwiches and such that we'll serve. So as a scrap, but it still costs the same. But once you've trimmed it with that 45% waste, you're talking about $35 a pound. So when you're getting your 6-ounce steak, which is about 40% of a pound, again, you could do the math, 0.4 times 35 is gonna be around $15 for that 6 ounce. When y'all buy 6, 8, 10, 15 and say, hey, can you cook them rare? Because we're telling you, you got to cook it, so we're not acting like a total grocery store. That is killing our ability to control the cost. So at some point, we really have to come to terms sooner than later that that's not the way the program was intended. And it's we're not able to quite hit our raw costs this year. It's the first time ever in 15 years I've not been able to hit my costs on food. We're not way over, but again, I mean, when you do the math over 225,000 meals, 5 cents, 10 cents turns into $50,000, $75,000. Okay, so that's kind of where we're at, and I'm not here to make decisions on this, but decisions will have to be discussed. But the options are: hey, you take the fillets away, not going to happen. Say you can't get them to go. No, if you want one to go, that's fine. Can you get 10 to go? That probably isn't fine. And so those are things that we're going to probably want to talk about a little bit more. And again, this will also make for our meeting next week as well. But that is, again, that's a real challenge, and I think we can all work through it. Wrapping up, I think there's many positives in food and beverage. Staffing, although it is tight, and it is still tight, but I have more staff than I have ever had by a fair amount. And but again, we're also much busier than we've ever been. So great that we have more staff, and great that we're busier. So I still need some more folks. But the really neat thing is we have a lot of really good staff. I've got great managers. I've got great servers and cooks. You see people smiling. Many of us go out to restaurants, and you don't see a lot of that smiling and people that look like they're really concerned about how you're feeling. I think many of you see that. Many of my staff feels very strongly about doing the right thing for y'all, just as I do. This is what we do, and we want to do it well. So we're continuing to look for more people like that, and we are finding them. It doesn't mean everyone hired is going to fit that, but they need to be very close to that, or this just isn't the right fit. And I feel very strongly about that. I've always felt strongly about that. This is for your benefit. So again, I think those are very strong positives. My goal for the last 15 plus years is to offer all of you the best quality food and variety with a friendly service with a smile. And I do appreciate all your support over the years. Thank you. Any questions? You have 1 minute. Why am I give you 2 or 3? Yes.
I was wondering if you're noticing the impact of the Pathfinders coming to eat here.
Karen, I might defer you. The question is, as far as Pathfinders, how many of these prospective residents are coming in daily? I know we're tracking it. I haven't seen the information lately, but I don't know if it's a couple to 3 or 4 a day, but it's probably lower than that, but it can be up to that. It's not an impact that's causing us any grief or hardship at all. That's not it. That's not what's sending us overboard. Yes, anyone else? Yes.
If you do have
a job, hold on.
That's right, Rose has a job, let's let her do it. Please.
Okay, if you do go the route of having a buffet and you don't take reservations, how are you going to prevent food wastage if people don't show up?
That's always the curveball. But again, I understand how you watch the flow and you can build up and you can slow down. This is what I do. My staff does it. There's always a learning curve, but you'll also find that, let's say there's a day where we have meatloaf. I already know we're going to be very busy. If I were to put crab cakes on it, we're going to be very busy. And then so we're going to anticipate that, but you still build up. And then as you see, and again, we also know that the peak time people are going to eat in the evening would be between 5 and 6:30. So I know around 6:50 I'm going to slow it down. So this is what we do. We'll figure it out. But buffets inherently have a higher waste. I am generally not a fan of buffets, but there are benefits, and this would be one of them, clearly. That answer your question? Good deal.
All right, Mr. Albert, you're on.
Okay, I live in a patio home and I don't come over real frequently to eat, and we enjoy the food when we do. However, I see you talking about buffets, and buffets with me are kind of a problem because quite often the food is not as warm as it should be. And I'm wondering if you're going to get a different piece of equipment.
Funny you should mention that. Ryan, I hope you're listening. The short answer is, if we did it and it was successful, first we would try with the old sternos and throw the water in there, but the intent would be to have Skip and his gang get a 240 volt line dropped over in there somewhere. We'd buy a nice looking buffet table and we would put it in there so it would be hot, but also certain items hold better in a buffet. Generally something that's sitting in a liquid or that's got a high moisture content. So that's part of making sure the menu is conducive to giving quality product. But we can make it happen. And understand, again, you don't like buffets a lot, I don't like them a lot, but we'll still always have the cooked order by reservation option available. That's not going away.
Yeah, I know recently there was I guess it was a Halloween, it was a buffet. And unfortunately, there probably should have been 2 buffets set up because the line was incredibly long.
Or we could have staged it to where we set tables, you can go, but sometimes people don't listen and they just kind of get up and go, but I'm not judging anyone. But these things, yeah, but you're right, would 2 buffets have helped? Yes. The problem is when you do 2 buffets, to your point, you're gonna have more waste. So I understand both y'all's point. Any other questions?
Yes.
I just want to say your staff is doing a great job.
Thank you. I agree. Appreciate that. Anything else? Looks like Ryan's told me it's time to go. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you, Bruce. I want to echo, the work that Bruce and Karen and his team are doing. We've never been busier. I want to make sure folks know, in the food and beverage team, we've seen them come together. They really do a great job. For us to hire folks across any part of our campus, they have to pass a background check, a drug screen, and a physical. You don't see that at other restaurants. So when restaurants are saying now hiring, they may be hiring folks that have questionable background checks. So we can't tap into that pool. So the pool that we can hire from goes from here to here very quickly. And we're doing a great job in keeping those folks and continuing to find opportunities for them to grow. We've had quite a few staff that have been here for a number of years. So it's great to see that. And it's great to see that we're continuing to find new people to join our team. So, go ahead.
I just want to say, Ryan, this is the time we can say thank you to all these wonderful people that provide food for us with a smile. So remember them at Christmas.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I wanted to jump into a couple I was jotting down some notes. I want to make sure I can clarify maybe some questions you might have. Touchtown that Bruce was talking about, that's the resident portal. Not everybody may not know. So as we're looking at online reservations, that'll be integrating Full Count, which is the software point of sale POS, with the resident portal. So that would help you go out to the resident portal, you'd be able to make a reservation. Again, as Bruce said, we're not going to do that 100%. We may have 10% of the spots available on that. We may slowly peak that up to maybe 15%, depending upon how it works. We're going to learn. We're going to make some mistakes. We feel strongly it's something that we need to do to continue to evolve and make sure that people have a better experience. So, Touchtown is that resident portal, just to clarify with folks. To go back to what Amy was talking about, we've got some really good feedback. Is it Laura? Is that her name? Laura, the lady that's stepping in for Katie. So that's great to hear as well, that she is helping us as much as she can. We'd love to have a few more hours with somebody, but we'll continue to keep our eyes and ears open with Katie being out. Anna Grace talked about COVID. We are seeing increasing cases, so I think maybe close to 7 in the independent living residents, close to 6 within our healthcare area. I think we have 4 staff members. We're also seeing a number of our cases come from the hospital, which it's hard for us to say exactly, but when somebody comes in and 3 days later they test positive, it's likely that they picked it up at the hospital. So I'm not trying to induce panic on anyone, but it is a part of our life now. It is different than what it used to be. It is, increasing with cold weather, people being indoors. So just making sure you're aware, we do need to continue to be vigilant, focusing on hand washing, focusing on making sure folks know that the risks are there. But after 3.5 years, we cannot go back to where we were in 2020. So just being smart about our risks and making sure you're all aware that it is out there and going to continue to be with us. We are hopeful to still hold our Thanksgiving event, which will be next week. We feel strongly, it's been, this will be the 4th year, 3 years that we took off, that we need to hold that event. It's extremely important. We're going to look at some limitations for some of the residents within the licensed areas. And I wanted to clarify, Molly had asked before, the licensed areas are our assisted living and our health center. So we say licensed areas because the Department of Health, DHEC, requires us to license, and they oversee those areas. So we have independent living, and then we have licensed areas, which would be assisted, and the health center. So we're hopeful to have that event next week. We still feel that it's important for us to do that. We may change our mind come Monday if the outbreak continues to be more significant, but we feel it's a really important thing to do for folks to get together. The priority sales process does continue. We're having an event actually today. So next week, Bruce had mentioned, we're going to be visiting 3 different communities in North Carolina to get a feel for what carriage homes look like. So we're going to give our sales team an opportunity to actually see one of those homes and walk through them. The homes for the horse, you could say. That's something we're going to do next week. We felt it was important since we were making a trip between the marketing team, between myself, between Skip's going to make the trip. We also thought it was good for Bruce to make the trip with us and just get a feel for how some of the other organizations do food and beverage, and maybe get some ideas. So we'll be going to Davidson, North Carolina, to Durham, North Carolina, and Chapel Hill. So we're going to take an overnight trip and see three different communities similar to us. The one being in Durham, North Carolina, being a life care services community with well over 600 residents that live there. So we're looking forward to that time next week as we continue to move forward with the priority sales process, just to see what that new hybrid home / carriage home would look like. So I think that's pretty much it. I don't know if folks are aware, I think some people were, that myself and Anna Grace and 2 of our board members and LaGree, our director of nursing, were in Chicago early part of this week for a leading age event, which is a great opportunity for us to be around other folks that do the work that we do, from nonprofits, from California to Florida to Maine. So it was a good opportunity for us to get outside of our space, think a little bit differently, have a little bit of fun, and really just kind of understand what's going on around us and what are some other initiatives, what are things that folks are struggling with. And I came back, energized to know that we're doing a lot of things right, and also got some ideas on some things that we can do differently. So it was a good opportunity, glad to be back. Was able to get back in last night around 10 o'clock. So thankfully I had a direct from Chicago to Greenville, which is hard to find, but grateful for that opportunity. It's right around the end of October, beginning of November every single year. So wanted to see, go ahead if we can keep moving along. I wanted to share with you all some more information after we had shared the monthly service fee increase letters with you over the last 2 weeks. So we have a resident finance committee which meets on a quarterly basis. And I want to make sure folks know that resident finance committee is in a little bit of flux right now, with Lynn resigning and then Sean, our county director, stepping in. So this last one was a little bit different. Sean is still learning and understanding, but this is bits and pieces of the presentation that we made when we visited with the resident finance committee a couple of weeks back. So wanted to share with you all, as far as each year, what does the budget process look like for us, and what are we trying to achieve? So, wanted to share with you, the 2024 budget, just like any other budget year, we strive, to provide quality services and care at competitive rates. I think you all, understand that. We try to keep our resident fees down. We try to make sure that we are meeting or exceeding our loan covenants. So we have a bank, Truist Bank, and we need to make sure that we keep enough cash on hand to cover if something were to go wrong, if another COVID were to happen or something else. So the bank needs to be reassured that we have enough in a savings account to cover. One of the covenants is days cash on hand in case something were to significantly happen. How do we make sure that we can still pay our bills and make sure that we can still pay the entrance fees back to you all? So we try to make sure we're meeting or exceeding those covenants. We also have to service our current debt. We do have loans that we have to make sure that we meet. And we also need to make sure we have enough money to continue to improve the campus through capital expenditures and other campus improvements. So that budget process, it's pretty intensive. It includes the department managers, accounting director, myself, and our administrator. It also includes folks at Life Care Services. We have a financial services team of CPAs and finance folks that help us to understand trends and help us to look at those numbers and relook at those numbers and keep working on them to make sure that we hit that right goal. It's also reviewed by LCS executive leadership. It's reviewed and approved by the board. So our board of directors, we get a synthesized or a summarized version of it, and we make sure that they understand what our goals are and where we're headed, and they're the ones that has the final say. We make recommendations, but ultimately they do say, yes, we're going to approve this. Once that's approved, then we make sure that you all have that 60-day advance notice for those monthly service fee changes. Go on to the next. This is a breakdown of our operating revenues for 2024 that we have budgeted. As you see, as far as the revenues, about roughly 51% of our revenues come from our independent living setting, and about 48% of our revenues come from those licensed areas I mentioned, between the health center, assisted living, memory care. Those are where those numbers come from. And again, if folks want to see this, we'll make sure this is posted to the portal. You can get a copy of it. Our operating expenses by department, this will give you a breakdown of how our expenses are coming from within each department. The health center is significant when it comes to the amount of expenses that we have. So I think folks are aware of that. Food and beverage as well. So between the health center and food and beverage, that's about 48% of our expenses, which is pretty significant. If you were to break this down to be for independent living, there's a little chunk of independent living that would be food and beverage. There's a little chunk that would be environmental services, and there's a piece that would be for the planned, also G&A, which we call general administrative. There's a good number of marketing dollars that are in that number, and then also resident services between the clinic and between the activities team. So there's not a section that says independent living, but you would take pieces from each of those different departments to pull together for an independent living department. Keep moving forward. As far as an operating expense breakdown, I want to highlight the fact that about 60%, 60, of our expenses come back to staff between wages and benefits. We are seeing a significant increase in insurance costs, not just employee insurance costs, but also property casualty insurance costs. So that is something that we see as a difference from year over year. And we're also seeing the need for us to continue to have our technology evolve, to continue to implement marketing tools, making sure our website is up to date, making sure there's a chat bot on our website that can answer questions for people that may have questions at all hours of the days and the nights. Making sure that our software is properly, gathering data on folks that are in our lead system, so we can make sure that we are following up with them and make sure that we understand where people are, and making sure that we can also continue to follow them from the beginning of the sales process to the end. So a lot of our digital tools and marketing tools, we've seen a significant increase in those in recent years. Keep moving along. So this is a breakdown of the 2024 operating budget. As you see, independent living revenue, then the health center revenue, assisted living, memory care, We do have a small amount of other operating revenue. The total revenues being a little bit under 25 million, and then the total expenses being around 22.5 million, giving us a net operating income of around $2.4 million. Go to the next one. So that 2.4, that net operating income, that's revenues minus expenses, that's what's left over to make sure that we have cash. So if you take the NOI, add some attrition income, which would be the difference between the entrance fees that we receive and what we have to pay out. And then we also have a small amount of investment income that brings us down to cash. So the cash that we have is used to cover our debt payments, like I mentioned before, make sure that we can meet our bank covenants, which I talked about, and then also fund campus improvement moving forward. So before jumping with a couple of questions, wanted to give a little bit of an update on some improvements that we have seen in recent weeks. As I was coming down here, I was walking through by the independent living, the commons dining room, and I saw that the gentleman was here to hook up the doors. So we've added those push buttons to the men's and women's restroom right outside of the dining room. We had somebody come out last week, but then we had to wait for the electrician to hook up the electrical, but the door gentleman was here just now. I know the buttons were up a little bit over a week ago, but they weren't functional, but as of right now, he's hooking those up. So you should be able to utilize those buttons inside and outside for those two bathrooms, which is something that should have been done a little while ago, and we're grateful to have that in place. We also were able to this week do some clearing and cutting down of a tree in the village green, and also thinning of some of the trees there. I've gotten some feedback today, and I've asked for some feedback, and I think overall it's positive. It's the first step that we're taking to make sure that we can recreate that space, but just simplifying it, opening it up, making it a little bit more, a little bit brighter, I guess you could say. There was quite a bit of canopies that were covered, so that's an exciting thing as well. I also believe yesterday the lights were fixed for the flagpole, or at some point this week. Is that right, Skip? So we had issues with the lighting before being underground and some moisture, but now we have new lighting to ensure that the front flagpoles at the commons, that those flags are lit up in the evening hours. So those are a couple of little things that we have been able to accomplish in the last couple of weeks that I want to make sure folks are aware of. The lakeside sidewalk, we are still waiting for a final assessment from a second engineer. We do have an initial assessment, so we're continuing to get more information on that. Once we do get some of the subject matter experts to give us more information, then we'll start to put together some plans and some options, and we're going to visit with the lakeside folks, as that's going to impact them. So that is another key project that we're continuing to work on. We're also trying to finalize plans for the cottages, for the drain lines. I know Skip was working on a second proposal. We have one proposal already, but we want to see what that cost is going to be from a second organization. So that's something as well that we're hopeful is going to get started on pretty soon once we can get that second quote and make sure that it's competitive. We'll move forward with that. So just a couple of different things I wanted to share with you all. Wanted to see what questions you have for me. I'm glad to go over a little bit and also visit with somebody one-on-one if we need to be. So Rose is ready to see what questions you'll have.
I wonder if you can tell us anything about Channel 59.
Oh, Channel 59. Amy's nodding her head.
There are a lot of residents here who lost it.
Yes, Turner Classic Movies.
Exactly.
And I can't answer that question, but I think between Skip and Amy, they can. Skip, you said you're nodding your head. He looks like he's able to answer it. I've seen the emails, but I don't know the latest.
Okay, I want to sort of set this up to help y'all understand. We've got several different contracts with Charter. Okay, we have a contract that covers the main building here, A, B, C, D, and E. We have a contract that covers Commons and F building. We have a contract that covers the patio homes. So they're different contracts, and this impacted all the contracts with the loss of Turner Classic Movies. So we're working with one side of spectrum to take care of A through E apartments, the admin building, the licensed areas, to add that to that. And then we have another contract, we're working with the patio homes to add them back into that. Unfortunately, they're independent. So we're having to work with two different groups to get this. We are working on that. They are finalizing the pricing of what the increase is going to be that we're looking at. Ryan will have some discussions with that. Once it gets approved, it goes back to charter. They send it up for their final approval, and then they will send it back. Now, the implication, they told me, and I'm going to be honest about this, I don't understand, but they said it's going to take 60 days. I don't know why, because I just figured you flip the switch. But let's don't get down that pathway yet until we know for sure. So we got to get all the T's crossed, I's dotted, get it approved, and then we'll know for sure exactly when this rolled out. But we are actively working on it. Ryan has already approved us moving forward with it, so it's just a matter for them to get everything together.
It was definitely not something we requested. It was one of those changes that service providers do, and they definitely didn't tell us. So we apologize for the inconvenience, but we know how important it is. We've heard from a lot of folks, so we're trying to figure out how we can make sure it comes back online. So I did not share financials from last month. They look pretty good. Sean is still learning that whole process, and we're going to be finalizing it tomorrow. Next week she's going out to Des Moines for a financial services conference, so she needs to finish it by the end of the day tomorrow. But we did come in just slightly over our net operating income goal, which is great. The health center continuing to see higher than we had planned occupancy over the last few months, so that's been great to see. So what other questions y'all have?
Two or three meetings ago, we talked about it.
A couple, 3 meetings ago, there was a short discussion on the proposed building complex on Trail Oaks. Anything, and I believe there's going to be a meeting shortly after that meeting. Did anything happen?
I know that Skip was able to go to the meeting. I did not attend the meeting. I believe that there's a process and there's significant, numbers of reviews. I thought, Skip, do you have an update there?
I don't have an update, but basically what the issue was, there was some objection and stuff about stormwater runoff that impacted that area. The stormwater collection area that they had built, designed for the community was 25 years, and the people in the neighborhood wanted 100 year. So they are going back to the drawing board, making some modifications, and that's going to be resubmitted, and then there'll be another public hearing when that happens, but we have not got any word on that yet.
As we're aware, it would be a community that's rental only, does have 55 and older. It does have some amenities. We do not see that as a significant competitor to us, but we're going to continue to keep our eyes and ears open. There could be opportunities for partnership and working with folks that live there, particularly around some of our assisted living and skilled nursing areas, but we'll just have to see. It may not come together, or it may. It's going to take a little bit of time. Other questions that you all might have?
Ryan, may I inject something, please?
Sure.
I wanted to share with y'all that last Friday, the Bowling Springs Fire Department had their breaking ground for the new fire department. It's going to be right here off of Garlington Road as you come from Pelham, and just as you cross the bridge where Hartness is, it's going to be right there on the left. And so you'll actually turn into the Hartness driveway for where the new fire department is going to be. It's going to be a very beautiful facility. So we're all very excited. We worked very hard to be able to get them a new place because they had far outgrown that and the congestion on Pelham. So it's really exciting, and I know y'all enjoy watching that come up.
Does anybody have other questions? Want to let y'all know it just last week, late last week, we received the initial results from our resident satisfaction survey. Next month, I want to bring a full presentation. It was 110 pages. So I have not, with me being gone, I flew out Sunday morning, just got back last night at 10. I have not had a chance to dissect it, but we scored really well. I can tell you overall from the independent living side, pretty remarkable that we received a 97% satisfaction score. 97% overall. So we'll go through, and I'll get a chance between now and next meeting to share more details with you all There's also an action plan associated with that. But just extremely grateful. We had almost 77% of people respond. We've never seen that type of a response. So extremely grateful for you all taking the time to letting us know. Like I said, 110 pages, I have honestly not looked at it in significant length, but I'll get a chance to summarize that and make sure you all know where we scored and what are some of those things that we've learned from it, and then make sure that you all know what we are doing in light of that. But we do really appreciate you taking that time and giving us feedback, and we're extremely excited to have those high scores. That's one day in time, and that does not stop our continued pursuit of providing great services to you all. But thank you. All right, if there's no other questions, thank you all. Have a great day. Thank you.